Hey everybody! In today's tutorial, I'm going to make a fun underwater watercolor. So I have a piece of cold press watercolor paper taped down to my board, and I have some tube watercolor paints. I'm using the Core watercolor paints. 2 dishes of water because I like to do a second rinse in a cleaner water. And an assortment of paintbrushes, which I'll probably only use one since that's all I ever do. So I'll ink the small one up, and I just want him to be just swimming in the background. And you can see there's not a lot of detail there, and that's fine, because these fish won't be detailed at all. And I want to leave myself a little bit of room, because I'm going to have a contrast between blurry underwater images and a very crisp, fun image using the stamp on smooth paper in contrast in the foreground. So I want to leave myself a tiny bit of room at the bottom for the smaller fish that I will stamp on a different piece of paper. So here's my scene. This is basically where these little fish will be. And on the back of the packaging, it shows you all the steps and what the finished fish will look like. And so I'm going to keep that near me, so that as I'm painting, as I'm losing detail, basically, as I'm painting, I can still kind of keep the general look of the fish. So I'm adding just a little bit of Hansa yellow watercolor on top of the fish. And since I use Stampin' Up! Ink, which does move with water, is sort of blending together with the orange to fade out the details of this fish, which is exactly what I want. And throughout, as I'm painting the fish, I am going to keep to this kind of sunny yellow plus a little bit of orange or orangish red in my fish. And you can see I'm bringing that shape back to those fish. And I'm using a lot of water here because I want the red and yellow to run together and really look very underwatery, if that's a word, a word that I just made up. So I need to let these dry, and I'm going to go ahead and let them air dry a little bit. I don't want them to completely dry because I do want them to blend with my water background just a bit. But I need to let them go sit for just a bit. So now I'm back. My paper is still damp, and you can see there's still little pools of just a little bit of water on some of the fish. So I'm going to add water to the background, and then I will be adding some cerulean blue watercolor. And like I said, I do want the fish to partially mix with the water to give that illusion that the water is actually on top of them. And so as I go around, if the orange bleeds out just a little bit, that's perfect. That's what I'm looking for. I want this to be a very abstract picture of fish under the water. But I do want to retain just that bright splash of orange, so I don't want to completely glaze over the fish with the blue. I could, and that would really enhance the underwater look. But I love that complementary color scheme, and I like the little pop of color that I get with the orange. So mine will just blend sort of at the edges and give me that look. Now you'll see me kind of dabbing color off with the absorber as I go. You can really get some great special effects with wet watercolor and the absorber, and it just softens out a lot of hard edges that you can get when you're painting. And it doesn't add texture like a paper towel will. Sometimes you want that effect that a paper towel will give you, but the absorber has a much softer effect when it's lifting color off of your watercolor paper. Now this is 100% cotton Artistico cold press watercolor paper. It's 140 pound. So it's a very luxurious paper, and the cotton really holds on to that water. It's wonderful. Now I'm adding back just a few little details here and there, not all across each of the fish, but just at the edges of a couple of the fish. I'm doing little stripes of a darker orange around their fins to give that flowy look that the stamp image actually has. And these will dry lighter, so it won't be as detailed as you're seeing me do here. But I'm just adding a tiny bit of definition just at random edges of the fish, just to bring their fishiness back. And then I'm going to put a little bit more blue in, and then I'm going to dab it just a bit with the absorber to take out those sharp edges again. But I like having a little bit more color concentrated towards the top, since my more detailed fishy element will be at the bottom. I wanted just a little bit more blue. So now I have the finished dried card, and you can see my little abstract fishies. And now I'm going to make my detailed fish, and I'm using my mini Misty. And I have the solid image of the smaller fish set up on my Misty to go in the corner of my card, and I've stamped that in Daffodil Delight. And I'm going to stamp it again just to make sure it's bright and perfect. And then I will use the other two detailed stamps. So the next stamp should be in a darker orange. I'm trying to closely match the watercolor colors that I used, and so I'm just picking ink colors that I think will work well for that. So now you just put the stamp directly down on the first stamped image to line these up perfectly, and then make sure your cardstock's back in the corner. Photopolymer will lift your cardstock, but that's the beauty of the Misty, is you just put it back in that corner and it's in the perfect place. And look at that. Oh, I love that detail. I love multi-step stamps. I'm just obsessed with them. My ink pad's a little bit dry, so I am going to stamp this again just to deepen that orange. And I will also do it a third time. This is what you gotta love about the Misty, is you don't have to re-ink your ink pads. You can be kind of lazy about it because, you know, you can stamp it several times and get it perfect. Then I'm just going to clean off the stamp with the absorber. I love it because that is a lint-free cloth. And so I just get it a little bit wet. Sometimes I use a little bit of Stampin' Mist, and I can just clean the lid of my Misty and the stamp at the same time. Now I had to take my glasses off to do this one. My vision is failing. This little one is easy to line up though, because you line it up behind the little area of white that's left from the previous stamping. So you can see on his little gill there's a little bit of white, and you just put it just behind that. And then I will be stamping this. I didn't want black. I thought black might be a little bit too harsh. So I will stamp this one again. Just make sure it's full strength. And look how much that adds. It's so realistic. Just beautiful. Now I've got that all cleaned up, and I'm going to take this little die cut that matches, and I'm going to cut him out. And here is the finished card with the contrast of the blurry underwater fish and the beautiful detailed multi-step fish on top, with the just keep swimming message, one of my favorites. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching.